Hey everybody, it's Tammy from Wisconsin. So, is there value in a hug? And the reason I was thinking about this today is because next weekend we're going to be in Denver when we are very excited. It's a Power Network conference, and yesterday when I was talking about the value of the community, we're starting to get closer to the conference, and I'm thinking we're going to be able to see all these friends we've made online and our community that we're part of. And we're really looking forward to that. Plus, our sons and our daughter-in-law will be there too. So I'm thinking we're going to get a lot of hugs. So now you can know why I'm wondering what the value of a hug is. Is there value in a hug? Now, if anybody would ask me if Lan's a hugger, in a second I'd say yes. I mean, he's always been a very emotional man and a big hugger, and that's why I love him so much. In our family, my extended family, every time we see each other, there's a lot of hugs. Everybody hugs everybody. And I got a lot of cousins, my aunt and uncles. And I remember there was one party that I went to. I think it was somebody's wedding or whatever it was. And with all the family there, sometimes you miss somebody hugging them. And my Aunt Shirley got really upset with me that she thought I was snubbing her or whatever because I didn't give her a hug. So sometimes I think you look at the value of a hug, it is showing how much you care about people and you love them. So um, in our family, my mom, I've talked about a lot that my mom and dad moved down south, and my sister moves down there too. So every time she comes into town, of course, we hug her. And I see her give my brother Terry a hug because he lives not too far away from us. But I never hug my brother Terry because I see him, we work together. I see him probably once a week at work. And, we go out often. So I see him all the time. So I don't hug him. And plus, my brother Terry is not a hugger. But when my sister comes in town, she always gets a hug from him. So do you get a value of a hug? 'Cause, you give the hug when you see somebody just periodically, or, is that where there's value? No, I know the only time in my memory that I've hugged my brother Terry is last year. He had a stroke, and the next time I saw him, I couldn't resist giving him a hug, even though I know he doesn't like public signs of affection or anything like that. It was one time that the value of the hug to me is to show my brother how much I cared about him and how much concern I have for him when he had his stroke. So, you can see the value in that. But is the value, there is value in a hug because I think a hug can change lives. I remember the first time that I realized how important hugs were. I went off to college, and I have to admit, I was so homesick. Night after night, I literally cried myself to sleep every night. I was so lonely. The first week of college is pretty much, you're just doing orientation, parties and stuff like that. And of course, then that first weekend, I went home. I mean, I was that lonesome, and I knew the value of a hug from my mom, and I needed that hug. So I went home for the weekend, and then Sunday night, I got on a bus back to school. That was about a 2-hour bus ride. And when I got on the bus, I saw somebody that I was friends with in high school. And she was a year older than me, so I hadn't seen her in a while. So we got to talking, and we went in the back of the bus. And it's called Badger Bus Lines in Wisconsin. And basically, it's a bus line that goes between Milwaukee and Madison for all the students that go there. So we were in the back and talked the whole way there. And it was nice to have a friend to talk to before, going back to a room where, my roommates, I didn't know any of them, and being all lonely again. What we didn't realize is because we were so far up in the back of the bus, how much we had talked louder than normal. So the next morning, first day of my college classes, I had laryngitis. I couldn't say a word. And when I did, it just, and I was so worried that they would take attendance in class, and I wouldn't even be able to say I was there. My first class, and the only class that ever took attendance, I nudged the person next to me and I told him, I wrote down, if they say this name, say you're here, because there was no way they were going to hear me. So that was awful, on top of the whole being homesick thing. So then that night, since everybody had gotten to know each other on the weekend, there was a knock at the door, and I was the only one home. I couldn't go anywhere because I couldn't talk to anybody. And here stands this guy, the cute guy from across the hall, of course, and he was looking for one of my roommates. So I opened the door, and I couldn't say a word, not one word, and it kind of just like croaked out. I said, "Jay's got home," or something like that, and he just looked like at me like I was from another planet. It was awful. Well, then, slowly my voice came back, and I was still really hoarse. So every time I'd see the guy and say hello, I would still be a horse. And eventually, by I think it was the next weekend, I finally had to explain to him that I had laryngitis, and we laughed, and he gave me a hug. Now, the value of that hug was it was big to me because I was so lonesome. It was nice to finally have a friend. And he realized then that my name was Tammy and his girlfriend's name was Tammy. So he felt like he was, it was like not his girlfriend, but it was at least another Tammy that he got a hug from. So we became best friends that year, and I don't know how I would have gotten through it without him. And that the value of the hug, that anytime he gave me a hug, was just priceless. So it can't change your life, because I don't know, maybe I would have quit college if I wouldn't have gotten that hug. The second time, one of the bigger times in my life that I realized the value of a hug, is when our son Griffin was born. He's our oldest. And if you're a mom or dad, and the first time your baby can hug you, your child, when they're a couple months old and they wrap their little arms around your neck, that hug has so much value. You realize how much you're loved unconditionally. And I don't know, I get hugs from Leon all the time, and they are great hugs, obviously. Um, I don't know how that hug compares to Leon even, but don't tell him that. So, you can tell I value hugs a lot. So this next weekend, lots of hugs when we go to Denver, that's for sure. So if you want to join us and get lots of hugs too, and be in Denver with us, we got a link to join down below, and click on that if you want more information, and to see the value of the community and the hugs. There's also a link down below for that, and there's a link to our blog today where I talk about the value of hugs also. And if you're not a hugger like my brother is, well, we're okay with that too. We just won't mess with you. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.